Today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite morphs, and that would be the Monarch. But there's a little more to it. I am creating hets by breeding a Monarch to a Pied. So double hets, Monarch Pied. And we'll discuss what those look like too when I hit the visuals eventually one day. But I wanted to do a little something different because we always bring egg cuttings to you, but hets, they just kind of look like normal. So I figured, why not combine it and talk about the Monarch as well? I love this gene. I've been praising it for an incredible amount of time. It's something that when I wanted to get into a high-end investment ball python morph, it seemingly just called my name. Let's take a look at the Monarch that I have here. We do have several hets, but the visual Monarch that I picked up from Tom Harbing is glorious. I absolutely fell in love with this boy the second I seen him, and I can't get over the colors and the saturation that Monarch brings to ball pythons. Starting off with these nice, crisp, yellowy oranges that come into the pattern, but that's actually not what I most love about the Monarch. For me, it's these nice, beautiful mahogany browns that are flirting with purple. I can't get over this color. Nothing else comes close to this. Furthermore, Monarch, what it does is not just this color morph, not just these beautiful saturations of colors that you're seeing, it cleans the animal up. Almost like a microdose of Desert Ghost in there. In a way, you're getting both this and that. Now, before I go any further, I do want to address a comparison that everybody's always making, and that's Monarch versus Ultramel. I get somewhat the comparisons, but look at the adults and tell me that that's even close to the same snake. They're not. They're different morphs. Even as babies, these are totally different morphs. I don't think that one needs to be considered better than the other. Obviously, I have my favorite, but that does not mean that both do not have their place and that both cannot be worked into collections. They do different things. You see that once you start working either of them, honestly. I chose to get into Monarch because, for one, I only have a limited amount of space. I need to selectively pick what I'm going to get into, and what did it for me was these rich colors and this absolutely beautiful clean animal. An animal that stays the same way that it looks basically from when it's a baby. But I promised an egg cutting as well. So as we talk about Monarch, I am occasionally going to cut open a few of my own eggs because they are due. Okay. So there are a couple I'm a little concerned about. Nothing too bad, but this one's a little molded, and this one are kind of smushed down. Now it is time for them to hatch, but it's a little bit too smushed for my liking. So let's go ahead and get started, however, because I cannot do anything about what nature brings to me. So let's start with the moldy one. This one's got some goop in it, though. I'm hopeful about this one. No, I don't know. We'll see. Well, I'm a little concerned about this one. It's very small. It's obviously got all of its yolk smashed around it. The other one that we first looked into is completely dried out and molded on the inside. Although this one, I don't know. Same thing here. It's just really small and there's a lot of yolk in there. You know, I can't lie, I'm a little concerned about these last two. They are alive, but I am concerned about them. Well, Monarch by itself is just unbelievably outstanding. I would be remiss not to show some of these absolutely amazing combinations that have been made. One of them might surprise you because honestly, it's just pastel. Pastel works really well with Monarch. Like I said, Monarch cleans the snake up, kind of like Desert Ghost. And well, Desert Ghost pastels look really good as well. When you can control the brown out in what pastel brings, then you have a really nice looking bright animal. And what pastel does for Monarch is, well, about the same. It brightens the animal up, everything about it. Obviously, you still get the characteristic kind of washed out head, but the contrast kind of goes to a more bright looking color. You get these kind of almost plum looks to the brown now. Really brings out some of these purples in there, and obviously just brightens it up, makes it more of a yellowy color to the pattern itself. So pastel works with Monarch. If you want to go the bright route, you can do that, but the dark route is kind of where my heart lies. Taking a look at this pastel sugar Monarch, again, you have these nice bright violet plums coming in, but the sugar itself brings in another layer of contrast, white. It kind of eliminates the pattern, but the brown only so much. So that kind of stays the course and holds, but it does get affected. The white, though, you can clearly see on the pattern where the yellow would normally be. It just starts to be eliminated and bring in those whites. Just another cool animal with just a different level of contrast that you normally normally wouldn't think of possibly. I don't always like sugar and calico and everything, and I'm not even sure I really like it a ton in Monarch, but this animal is cool. It's a very unique, awesome animal that brings a lot to the table. Now, where do you go from here with sugar in the mix? I don't know, but there's definitely some people who probably work sugar and calico, which do kind of the similar things, but this is probably my favorite one that I've ever seen, just because it maintains those nice dark colors on the back of it. Another version with pastel in it would be the Enchi Yellow Belly Monarch Pastel. I can't get over these beautiful purples, really, that are coming in on this animal, and now when you have Enchi in the mix along with Yellow Belly, those two always work very well together. They are really creating a beautiful contrast and creating tiger stripes along the snake rather than your normal patterns. A lot of different variety in here. Looks like you got some X's and whatnot. Very cool animal. All right, obviously we're a little concerned about these two. The first one dried out very, very quickly. It is very dry, but these are at least have water and then they have a semblance of a snake that has formed. It's just that their yolks are in there and they're very small. So these top ones I'm a little bit more optimistic about, but honestly with the bad start, I gotta admit, I'm a little concerned about everything. Oh, there we go. I don't like the way it's sitting up, but that's its umbilicus cord right there. You can see it. But I believe everything is okay here. Yeah, I think we're good. I like this blushing that comes up here. Cool pattern. But obviously we'll have to wait. So obviously these are het pieds, het Monarch. So they are very, very powerful. And I plan to keep some and sell the rest. So obviously I'm a little concerned, with what I'm seeing here, but we'll see what happens with those other two. Getting into the first double recessive, the Monarch Genetic Stripe. Monarch Genetic Stripes were the first Monarchs. They popped out of a combo from two what was called Dirty Pastels, but ever since then, it's been a very popular combo. Genetic Stripe doesn't get enough praise. It deserves to be worked a lot more in my opinion, but it really just localizes the brown stripe down the back. Obviously, you do have one stripe going down the middle, but it really just looks like two, just because the stripe in the middle is very similarly colored. You can see it's a little bit brighter than the sides. There's lots of other variety I've seen in Genetic Stripe Monarch, but just a different kind of look to it. Another really popular and interesting morph of the Monarch would be the Mojave Monarch, in this case a Pastavi Monarch. Now, you do lose some of the darker colors, which again I said I prefer, but it's a different flavor of what you normally see. Lots of cool brights in there, lots of shading. Definitely a unique snake that you really do not see anywhere else. Now let's take a look at the Monarch Pied. There are other Monarch Pieds without any other genes in it. This one has fire and yellow belly in it as well from Canova. This is basically some of the ideas of what we're going for here, is just certain Monarch Pied combinations. This one again is very bright. That's mostly because of the fire, but you can kind of see it here without the fire, even with just pastel. You get a lot of these crazy blown up pattern that the Pied brings in there, and that characteristic brown, even though it is lightened up, just makes the animal look so incredibly vibrant and spotty and leopardy, almost like it's dancing with some monsoon when the pattern is showing. This one feels the best of all of them. Now that's a good looking one. That's a real good looking one. Better looking than the last. I like the granulation that's coming up in there. Doesn't look like a normal pattern. And then of course it tapers off near the tail. Very true to what you see in Monarchs. This one looks good though. Big one. Alright, last one. This one's a little more dry, but not as dry as the first ones. I just find it crazy that that whole side had issues. That doesn't even make sense. Alright, we got another good looking one here. We got this little head there too. Hey there, buddy. Nice top pattern. Look at that. It's almost like an alien head on top of the snake. That's an alien head on the spine. That's the spine right I'm touching of the snake, rather than on the side. See, look, there's your normal alien head right there, and then there's one on the spine. That's real cool. Good one to end it on, considering that we didn't start good. If you've noticed so far that there's not a whole lot of things being worked in Monarch, that's because you are right. It's because it's still in its infancy. There's still a lot that can be done, which is super exciting. There's so much that it works well with, but yet people have yet to release, at the very least, a lot of these combinations. But recently Canova put out a video showing kind of light versus dark Monarch monarchs. And here you can see the orange stream yellow belly monarch pied versus the same thing with fire. I believe in this video Justin says that he likes the one without fire, and I would tend to agree because you have more orangey colors. You have that purple showing in quite a bit better, and you can really see the difference when monarch's in it versus when it's not in it. Really brings a cool flavor, turns those blacks into this bruised plum color. And finally, it took me a little bit to find one, but this right here is just a monarch pied, a very low white one at that. But you can kind of see how just the double recessive alone and by itself, honestly, I like it more than the combination with fire. Nothing wrong with the fire, I just prefer the deep, dark, saturated colors without fire. That's the only thing that I wouldn't even say that monarch doesn't work well with, but I feel like it does take away from the mahogany browns and the purples that it really brings in, the nice bright yellow oranges. These two work very well together. Monarch and pied work incredibly well together because monarch brings in all these beautiful colors, and so does pied. Pied brings in a lot of oranges and such like that. Next, you can see the fire mahogany pied. Going even further, as an example between the light and dark sides that you can get with monarch pied, you can see the fire mahogany pied versus the mahogany yellow belly pied, and look at that. That is absolutely stunning. I can't get over the level of contrast and the busy pattern that you're getting here. Lots of contrast and almost riding down the top of the snake, which I think is really important. I've talked about this in the past. If you can get pattern on the top of the snake, it just looks better. It's not like it's not on the sides as well, but now when you're looking down on that snake, which is just what you're normally going to do when you look inside the enclosure, you can appreciate it that way. If you're looking for a display animal as a seller, well, this certainly displays a lot better as well. This would easily be my favorite monarch pied that I have seen. The saturation is insane. And we'll end it off with what is easily my favorite monarch that I have ever seen, and that would be the spot nose monarch clown. Double recessive with just one extra gene. This takes the cake. There's so much going on here, and the fact that it brings it into the head, it really turns these plum like colors up a notch. You are absolutely right on the verge of purple. Obviously not a royal purple, but you are getting that plum color. When I saw this snake right here, I knew my choice right then and there for an investment morph when I wanted to get into ball pythons. Had to be monarch. All right, so we wanted to update you. It's been a little over a week. I went on vacation. They all came out of their egg, and they're all okay, more or less. There are 3 that are of pretty good size. They're about to have their first shed. They have not shed yet. You can see this one here is very good. You can even see that het monarch kind of coming in right there. This is how they always say that tapers off near the tail. That's what I just keep saying. So I believe what I determined earlier is that I have 2 females and 3 males. Well, that one's obviously a male, and I'm not sure if I'll keep any males, to be honest, because I'd like to buy one with an extra gene in there. Kind of diversify the gene pool that I have. Probably release all the males. I might keep one. I'm at least keeping 1 female. There's another male right there. And if you ever want to see how to pop, maybe we'll make a whole video on that, but just gently put your thumb there. You kind of sort of pull back while you put your thumb here. You just roll it forward. It's easy once you know how to do it. It takes some practice, and of course you don't want to hurt your animal because you could potentially hurt it pretty bad. And then this should be the female of the normal sized ones. Again, these are all 100% het monarch, 100% het pied. Yep, this is my female. She is going to stay here. There's no doubt on that. This is going to be a future breeder and hopefully going to produce some monarch pieds for me. So she's staying here. And then when you watched our video, one of them had dried out. I don't know why. 3 of them were kind of just weird, but you can see them here, the other 2 that just were very, very small. But I think they're gonna be okay. This is the smallest one. I was so concerned with it because it was so small. It's 21 grams when I weighed it. I'm not gonna weigh it right now because I don't want to mess with it. The smallest animal I have ever produced, right here. I will put it in my palm of my hand so you can kind of see. Look at that, like a juvenile hognose size. Crazy. I was so concerned because it was so small, but then also its stomach was very empty. There's kind of a difference. So you look at this one here, I'm not as concerned about it. It's also very small, 10 grams heavier, but I'm not as concerned because look at that fat belly kind of. Small, clearly, but I can feel that it absorbs the yolk. I don't know why it ended up so small, and I'm still concerned, but I'm far less concerned. Looking at this one, I was so concerned, I decided to offer it a pinky, a live pinky mouse, and it ate it. it. It took it and ate it. It's already had its first meal and it hasn't even shed yet. Not something I'd normally do. I wait till they shed, but it ate, and it's the smallest one. Look at it. It's got a feisty attitude, and this is the second time I've had a very, very small one. The first one we showed our video off was this Batman that I'm keeping, and look at him now. He used to be the smallest one I ever created. He's now the biggest out of all of his clutch. Still got obviously some growing to do. He's still a hatchling very much. So I hope that we have a story like that with this one. I am still way more concerned, but a lot of my fears have been alleviated because it ate, and you can see it's got a little bit of swell in its belly there. I'm very hopeful, and if I had to guess, I think it'll be okay, but I can't guarantee that because it's still very, very little. This one here next to it, I think is going to be fine. But the other one, again, having that first meal was a big, big, big thing. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you wanted to see our top 5 most up-and-coming recessive morphs, which Monarch makes an appearance on, you can check that out right here.